Yo, 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 what up, y'all? We are going to walk through one of the most anticipated airdrops for 2024, which is Marginfi, a lending protocol that is built on the Solana blockchain. Lego. Okay, the first thing I want to walk y'all through is this points system. All right, this airdrop is going to be based off of points. And there's only three ways to earn points through this platform. The first way to earn points is through lending. And it says right here, lending earns 1 point per dollar lent per day. The second way you can earn points is through borrowing. Borrowing earns 4 points per dollar borrowed per day. And the third way that you can earn points is through their referral program. And you can grab your referral link right here on the points tab, and then you could generate your referral link. All right. Earn 10% of the points any user you refer earns. All right. So that's the three ways that you can earn points. Now, with that being said, since that is the main three ways that you can earn points, there's no need to mess with the stake tab, the swap tab, or the bridge tab. There's no reason. All right. Now, you might have to swap depending on what you want to lend or borrow. All right. Or if you want to borrow something and then swap that asset and then lend some more, which we'll talk about in a second. Um, but yeah, that's probably the only other thing that you'll use on this platform right now. But just a reminder, the main things that you're going to utilize in order to qualify for this airdrop is the lending, borrowing, and then referring people. All right. Those are the only three things you need to focus on. Now, let's talk about lending and borrowing and what is my strategy. All right. So you want to make sure that you're on the lending tab right here when you want to lend or when you want to look at any of the prices, the APY, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Now, I noticed that there's a lot of people lending unstable assets, which I personally am not going to play with because that's a very active strategy. You're going to have to actively be watching your health factor if you're lending something that is not stable. All right. Um, for instance, let's just use my setup right here. Clearly, you can see that I am lending UXD and I'm gaining 16% APY at the moment. I have $137 in collateral that I've supplied. And then on this side, I'm borrowing $30 in USDT at an APR percentage rate of 14%. Okay. Now, let's just imagine a scenario where maybe I'm lending $60 worth of Solana right here, and I'm borrowing $30 worth of USDT. All right. That is going to put me at a 50% health factor because I'm borrowing 50% of the collateral that I've lent to this protocol. I hope y'all are walking with me. Now, if I'm supplying Solana and the price drops tremendously, that could put me in a slippery situation because, first of all, in order to maintain a healthy health factor on here, a healthy uh, debt to collateral ratio, I'm going to have to keep supplying more Solana, or I'm going to have to supply some more of a different asset, okay, in order to have a proper debt to collateral ratio right here. If Solana just, just dumps, that could put me in a position where, you could potentially get liquidated if it falls far enough. Okay, I'll just put it that way. On the other side, all right, let's say that I had a stable coin I was lending and I was borrowing an unstable coin, well, if the price of that unstable coin ends up running up too much, that could put me in a bad uh, debt to collateral ratio. Okay. I hope y'all are understanding. My point in telling you this is that when you're playing with unstable coins, you just have to be very active. You have to be watching this constantly because of volatility. And you're going to have to make sure that you're keeping your debt to collateral ratio healthy. So for me, I chose a strategy where I'm using stable coins. I'm lending a stable coin and I'm borrowing a stable coin. Okay. Now, something that I also noticed, and that's not to say that these people don't have some other strategy that I'm not aware of. They absolutely could. And or maybe they just want they just believe that Solana has no chance of dropping to certain prices, so they're okay with it. Um, they think that their collateral will be growing over time. Maybe that's the strategy. You know, if Solana runs up to $120 and they're supplying a bunch of Solana, well, then their collateral just grew. So they could, in theory, they could just borrow more, right? So I get it. Um, there's different ways to do this. Once again, they probably have different strategies. I'm just sharing with you a little insight and helping you come up with your own strategy, right? Now, for me, I, oh, snap. No, okay, that's no good. Now, here's something I'll show you. Because me, I didn't want to be that active. So I'm like, I'm gonna just lend stable coins and I'm gonna just borrow some stable coins, right? I'm gonna borrow against it. Um, Now we just saw USDC was if you lend it, you are making, or let's just use USDT for an example. You are lending and you are receiving 7.89% APY. Oh, we'll look at USDC too. You would be earning 4% APY. All right. Pay attention. Now, if you go to the borrow tab, let's say you go and you borrow those stables because you want to have a lazy plan. Well, you would be owing interest because USDC, you're only being paid 4% APY, but in order to borrow it, you have to pay 7% APR on it. Okay. So, yeah, you would be making points. You wouldn't really have to watch it. But if you lent USDC and then you borrowed it back, you would be paying 3% interest just to hold that position. Okay. 3% in a year. USDT is you were lending at 7%, and if you borrowed it, guess what? You would be paying um 14%. You'd be paying double you'd be paying double in interest. So that wouldn't really be a good strategy, in my opinion. Now, I just saw so somebody like when I was looking at this last USDC as far as borrowing, it was maxed out, which is interesting. Let's see, because it only has a 7% APY. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and borrow right here. And I'll probably borrow like $20 worth, maybe 25. I'm gonna borrow that. Okay, because I see it's only at 7%. And I originally borrowed USDT because this was, we couldn't borrow any of this. It was already tapped out. But this has a lower rate than the USDT I'm borrowing. So this is even better. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and borrow $25 worth. Okay. And if we go up here, Let's kind of look at our strategy now. Okay. So we talked about unstable versus stable. We talked about some of the percentages that you want to watch out for. You want to make sure that this makes sense for you, right? You want to make sure that if you're borrowing and stuff, this makes sense. I guess another thing I can talk about kind of is the debt to debt to collateral ratio, which they call the health factor, right? I would never want to fall below the 50% uh, debt to collateral ratio. All right. I would want to keep it above 50% just to make sure you're safe. All right. Just to make sure you're safe. So it says right here, if you let it fall below 0%, you are exposed to liquidation. Okay. Me, I'm not even going to get close to these lower numbers. I'm not going to have it at 20% or 10% because if one of these stable coins depegs, guess what? I might be in trouble. If I'm using unstable assets, well, that's volatile. So that anything can happen while I'm away from this, right? So I would always want to make sure that I have at least a 50% ratio so that I have some room to be safe. All right. I have some room to move some things around if I have to. All right. Now, my strategy, what I did is I lent some some UXD, which is gaining me 16.25 percent APY. And I have borrowed USDT, which is costing me 14% APR to borrow. And now I borrowed some USDC, which is at 7%. Well, guess what? My 16% outweighs both of these. Okay. So not only am I lending a larger amount, um, uh, more than double. All right. So my APY over here is canceling out any APR on this side of the ledger. All right. For everything that I'm borrowing. That's a strategy that makes sense to me because essentially I'm farming this airdrop for free. I'm running up these points and I've actually made it beneficial to me where my money is still working for me, right? I'm gaining at least, which, and it's probably a little bit more, but I'm gaining at least 2% interest on my UXD over here. And actually, it has to be more, right? It has to be more because this amount, this $55 is not canceling out no $137 working, right? So I'm definitely gaining way more interest on this side of the ledger. And so that makes sense for me. I'm getting these points free. All right. I hope that makes sense to y'all. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you with this strategy is I'm at 53% uh, debt to collateral right now, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and swap this USDC that I have borrowed into UXD. All right. Boom. I'm going to swap it. Okay. Okay, I got my UXD. I'm going to go back over here to lend. And I am going to supply that over on this side of the ledger. Okay. And it says it's going to take me back up to a 60% uh, AP. I'm sorry. It's going to take me up to a 60% health factor, AKA debt to collateral ratio. Beautiful. So now I have even more money over here gaining me interest. I'm benefiting from the debt that I've taken out. all of this debt is gaining me 4 points per dollar. Every dollar over here is gaining me 1 point per dollar per day. And I could probably do this another time, right? I can go borrow some more and then throw it back into this. So I'm gaining more and more APY, and I'm gaining more and more points off of just the little bit that I may have started with, right? You can see how this can be used to your benefit, I hope. So that's it for this video, though. That's all I got for y'all. I'm gonna make sure that I have my referral link down in the description below. If you found this video informational and helpful, please utilize my referral link. It will help me, run up some of these points. Appreciate y'all as always. One love. Peace.